फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। सो आज की वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे, आपका एक टॉपिक है इंटीग्रेटेड पेस्ट मैनेजमेंट और इंटीग्रेटेड डिसीज मैनेजमेंट। ओके, सो हियर दिस पर्टिकुलर we will talking about the cultural practices that are used for the plant disease management. Okay, so we can assume that cultural practices जो रहती हैं they are invaluable to crop disease management because it is the practice that lead to reduction in the inoculum and reduction in the pathogens inoculum. So it is the most important component of plant disease management. So once the inoculum load is reduced, we can expect lesser disease naturally. So the cultural जो practices रहती हैं the for reducing the crop disease, so cultural practices can be considered as a invaluable practices for the management of plant disease because it lead to reduction in the plant pathogen in terms of its initial inoculum. So once when we are able to reduce the initial inoculum, we can expert lesser disease in subsequent, those भी subsequent seasons रहते हैं. So जो cultural practices रहती है, it is very very essential for that point of the view. So some of the cultural practices are so essential that it can even be better than the management of the pathogen, like through the chemical or host resistant measure, because if the host resistant is applied singly, then what happen when it is applied singly, then there is every possibility that the host resistant barrier they will be overcome by the new races of a same pathogen. So similarly, if a synthetic chemical is used for longer period of time, so as if we use a longer period of time, then there is every possibility the pathogen develop resistance against the particular synthetic compounds. It is true. So the cultural practices जो रहती हैं they can be done in 3 stages. Basically ये क्या करते हैं, हम 3 stages में यूज कर सकते हैं. Now we can see. सो जो भी ये प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, इसको फर्स्ट जो है वो ये है कि फर्स्ट वन इज़ द प्री प्लांटिंग स्टेज, सेकेंड वन इज द प्लांटिंग स्टेज एंड थर्ड वन इट इज़ एट द post planting stage. So pre-planting operations, they can include choice of the site and then clearing of the land and the stumping, plogging and जो भी harrowing and riding. So these are some of the practices that are normally done before the planting of the crop. Similarly similarly what happen at the planting operation, that they include planting, transplanting and nursery practices. Okay, so these are the operations that are done during the plantation of the crop, and the post planting operation, they include thinning, supplying, mulching, manure or application of water या watering. So weeding and pest and disease control with any management practices, and harvesting, processing and further then storage. So here the post planting जो operations is also significant in reducing the disease inoculum. So what are the important cultural practices? Here is the question, what are the cultural practices? Okay, उसमें भी important cultural practices. So if we just consider important cultural practices, so then the first and most जो widely used cultural practice है, it is the rotation of the crop, okay, with the unrelated crop. Say for example the most of the pathogens of the cereals are non-pathogen to the pulses. It is clear. So a crop rotation of cereals with pulses is a good idea to lower the inoculum level of the particular pathogen in causing disease to a particular family of plant species. And the crop rotation, or normally it is done for 3 to 4 years, so that the pathogen it is deprived of its normal or natural host to build up its own inoculum. So like crop rotation, it is the most beneficial, most important and foremost and widely used cultural practices globally. Now next one, it is the fertilizer uses. Okay, so here is fertilizer uses is very significant in the sense that we have seen or it is observed that when the nitrogen like balance goes up, or you can say that like application of nitrogen it is enhanced, then it lead to the susceptibility of the host plant toward the certain like pathogens. So at the same time, if it is the potash fertilizer, it strengthened the host to fight with the invading pathogens. So here application of potash is beneficial for the pest resistant and disease resistant. So balanced application of the like fertilizer, it is essential like to manage the certain pathogens. Next one is the deep burial of the crop residues. So what it is achieved through this practice, it is that once we like buried the debris of the previous crop, that then the most many of pathogens जो हैं they can survive on the debris. So once they are buried deeply into the soil, so then they like suffer from the lack of oxygen, or thereby the pathogen they may be killed, or like their inoculum it is destroyed. So deep plogging. Next, okay, deep plogging is another cultural practice that also help us to remove or like lower down the initial inoculum that is present on the crop debris. Now then the planting on the raised bed, you can मतलब raised bed जो है आप सभी जानते होंगे. So like this is the another concept, okay, like raising bed or planting. This is a very good practice for like certain crop, example for the like vegetable and like certain pulses, because like in poorly जो irrigated areas हैं और like poorly जो drained areas हैं where या drained soil, poorly drained soil है, where water is stagnation, it is a problem. Yeah, it is a very difficult problem. It is often observed that the wheat cultivation help us to avoid the certain disease that caused by like certain pathogens, because it work as an alternate host. So this is a practice that need to be done like in crop like peanuts, soybean and guar. So we're growing vegetable crop during the poorly drained soil. So this is very essential in those soil where the drainage condition is not up to the mark. Okay. Now, so then the burning of the crop residues. Now, although this is not a environmentally very acceptable method, but this is a practice that can be adopted in a small scale in a particularly like nurseries or like on certain small land holding, like where the burning of crop residue they can also help us to minimize the inoculum load for the next season. So बहुत large area में हमको ये recommend नहीं किया जाता. Now so this is the another practice that is adopted in many parts of the world to like particularly destroy the inoculum level from the particular line holding. So then time of the seeding or sowing. So here this is very essential in the constant, like that say for example with streak virus, it is a virus like streak virus रहता, they become more severe if plantation of wheat is delayed. So similarly we can avoid the or escape the cotton rot problem by early planting of the cotton seeds. So by the manipulating the time of sowing or seeding, we can escape the certain disease in some important crop like wheat, cotton or etc. So this is also one of the major cultural practices that need to be adopted, and it need to be practices. The next one is the removal of So the next one is the removal of undesirable plant. So we all know that the many जो plant pathogens है, they are harbor in unrelated crop species in the agriculture form. So when the main जो crop है is there is in the field, then the like pathogen that are surviving on different parts of this unrelated plant species, they come back to the main crop and they cause extensive damage. So it is removal from the field, it is very very important, and it need to be done regularly in every crop season to avoid this disease development. So then the volunteer जो plants हैं, this is another cultural practices. नाउ वी सी द वॉलेंटियर जो प्लांट्स, ठीक है. सो क्या होता है, इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू लाइक मॉनिटर दिस वॉलेंटियर प्लांट एंड दे शुड बी रिमूव फ्रॉम द फील्ड सो दैट वी कैन हैव लो inoculum level of the main crop for the next season. Now the rogging or removal of the diseased plant, why it is done, like this look very simple, but it is the very very essential cultural practices which lead to reduction in the development for the next season. So once we see like an infected plant in the main field, it should be immediately picked up and removed. So it should be destroyed in way to so that disease is not spread from that infected plant to other healthy crops. So these cultural control practices have been found to be economically feasible and reducing the disease losses. So growers, they should be properly identify the disease that limit the production and then use a variety of control like in a combination. So this is, so here we study about cultural practices. So the cultural जो practices they can be integrated as well as we can adopt like multiple option of cultural practices to like reduce the inoculum level of a particular pathogen that is possibly like being targeted for the next crop season of the main crop. So इसमें ये है कि मेन क्रॉप लाइक थ्रू इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ दिस कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस like are cost effective and they can be easily done, okay, but this is a very very significant control measure for the management of a serious plant pathogen. So here this topic is completed. Integrated disease management में cultural practices complete हो गया. Now next chemical practices and so on that है वो हम discuss करेंगे next video में. So thank you for watching today's video.